Good evening, I'm Christina Aguayo. 9 and 10 News at 6 starts right now.
We're finding some incredible temperatures this afternoon. Very comfortable out there, but tonight, once again, a bit chilly with lows in the 40s and for some, the 30s.
Tens of thousands of auto workers may be walking off the job at midnight if a deal isn't reached between the UAW and the big three automakers.
We are preparing to strike these companies in a way they've never seen before.
The union's demands, the automakers' frustrations, and what the targeted strike plan looks like. Plus, as the countdown continues, the impact of a strike could cost the U.S. economy billions.
It will have a domino effect.
How the ripple effect will impact local communities in northern Michigan.
Looking at surface water impact from the fire.
Also, the cleanup effort continues today after a massive fire erupted at a tissue plant in Sheboygan. The emergency response and why the EPA is involved. And the jury is now deliberating the fate of 3 men accused of helping in the plot to kidnap Governor Gretchen Whitmer. Details about what the jurors are tasked with deciding.
We are preparing to strike these companies in a way they've never seen before.
Thousands of workers with United Auto Workers Union could go on strike if a deal is not reached with the big three automakers by midnight. If the UAW decides to engage in a series of targeted strikes, it could cost the auto industry billions of dollars and cause a domino effect for hundreds of suppliers, including those here in northern Michigan. The big three, General Motors, Ford and Stellantis, are facing ambitious demands from the union. The list includes an immediate 20% raise in hourly pay and additional raises of 5% over the next 4 years. They also want retiree health care coverage, a 32-hour work week, and job protections.
They spent more money enriching shareholders in a year than they spent on us in the entirety of the last contract cycle. They want to scare the American people into thinking the auto workers are the problem. We're not the problem.
Company execs say they're negotiating in good faith, but that midnight deadline to strike a deal is approaching fast. And the UAW strike could have a major impact on the Michigan economy, which is the heart of the automobile industry. 9 and 10's Meredith St. Henry talked to an economics professor at Northwood University today and has more details on the economic fallout of a strike.
The auto industry is about 3.5% of U.S. GDP. It's the largest single manufacturing segment of the U.S. economy, and it employs directly and indirectly 7.5 million people.
Northwood University economics professor Dr. Timothy Nash says the economic impact of the UAW strike depends on how long it will last.
If it's a 10-day strike, it's going to cost the American economy, and most of it, the Great Lakes states, and more Michigan than any other state, it'll cost between $5 and $7 billion. And if it goes 30 days, this thing could cost, this could start to cost 30 or 40 billion dollars, because then you're going to start to see other plants close down.
But the impact won't be limited to just the auto industry. Any businesses around striking factories could suffer.
Such as a coffee shop or a restaurant or a clothing store, etc. So, there's direct and indirectly at least 10 million Americans that are impacted by the auto industry.
Car companies outside of the big three could try to take advantage.
The non-union plants like Toyota out of Kentucky and Marysville, Ohio for Honda, they're going to produce a lot more vehicles, and they're going to try to lure customers from GM and Ford and Chrysler to Honda and Toyota and Hyundai and Nissan. And these are all factories that now have as much domestic content and are American made.
And should the U.S. find itself in a recession anytime soon, any strike would only make things worse.
Once an auto factory closes down, then you're going to have parts suppliers close down, and then raw material suppliers will close down. We don't have a big inventory that's been built up, especially due to the supply chain problems that we've had.
For 9 and 10 News, I'm Meredith St. Henry.
Warehouse fires draw a lot of attention, and they affect a lot of people. They're very disruptive, and often they contain materials and chemicals.
Firefighters are still on the scene today, dousing hot spots at the tissue depot in Sheboygan more than 24 hours after a massive fire broke out yesterday. The thick black smoke from the fire impacting air quality in the area and possibly the surface water of the Sheboygan River. In our continuing coverage, 9 and 10's Jody Meeson was in Sheboygan and has more on the cleanup efforts happening today.
A massive fire at the tissue depot here in Sheboygan County have left parts of the building exposed and charred, but that fire has been knocked down. Still, the impact from that fire remains.
It was a fully engulfed inside the storage unit of the tissue depot with a large black plume of smoke that was rising several hundred feet in the air, and it was drifting towards the fairground area, which is the east side of the river.
Sheriff Timothy Cook says the fire was reported around 11 a.m. Wednesday, forcing them to close down roads and evacuate nearby homes and businesses because of the air quality concerns.
The contents in the building consisted of coal ash and large volume of plastic recycled waste material. Indications are around 100 tons of that material stored in that barn. That is what caused the black smoke in the air
and prompted the shelter-in-place advisory for people that live in the area. That advisory was lifted Thursday afternoon.
Our results to date show a very favorable diminishing of particulate levels in the community. The air quality looks a lot better than it did last night. We are also looking at surface water impact from the fire and the fire runoff. There's been quite a bit of debris in the air. We're going to be helping out with recovery of some of the fire-related debris. And we also have some crews in the river itself to collect and contain any debris that we can to prevent it from migrating downstream or getting into Lake Huron.
About 5 businesses are still closed right now, as well as some streets nearby.
We want to open these businesses. We want to make it easier for people to get around town. But even though it's not an active fire, we still don't need people around the scene. So we'll be working on getting some fencing and getting that scene secured.
People who live here were advised to shelter in place over air quality concerns, but that was lifted earlier on Thursday afternoon. The fire remains under investigation. For now, in Sheboygan County, Jody Meeson, 9 and 10 News.
State Representative Cam Cavett of Sheboygan gave a statement on the tissue depot, saying in part that this is a major concern and should not be taken lightly. The Great Lake Tissue Plant has been a staple to the community since the 1800s, employing thousands of people in northern Michigan. Cavett called the fire tragic, but is grateful no one got hurt. The Benzie County Sheriff's Office says an Interlochen man riding a motorcycle was killed in a crash on Wednesday. It happened in the area of Fewens Road and Burnt Mill Road in Benzie County's Inland Township. When deputies got there, they found the motorcycle and a pickup truck in the ditch. They believe the motorcycle was going fast when it hit the pickup truck from behind. Deputies tried to save the life of the motorcyclist, but Sam Kangas died at the scene. The man in the truck had minor injuries. We have an update for you on the man who bribed the former chair of the Michigan Medical Marijuana Licensing Board. He has learned his sentence. The Justice Department says that John DeLaley will serve more than 2 years in federal prison and have to pay $25,000 in fines. He was charged for paying bribes to Rick Johnson, a once powerful state rep in northern Michigan, in exchange for approving medical marijuana applications. Johnson, from Leroy, who you see here, has also pleaded guilty to bribery, admitting that he took at least $110,000 worth of bribes while he sat on the Medical Marijuana Licensing Board. Also charged for bribes are Brian Pierce of Midland and Vincent Brown of Royal Oak.
You must return a separate verdict for each defendant. For each defendant, you may return a verdict of guilty of one or more of the alleged crimes or not guilty. Remember that you must consider each defendant separately.
The final trial in the plot to kidnap Governor Gretchen Whitmer is now in the hands of the jury. Eric Molitor and brothers Michael and William Knoll have spent the past 15 days on trial for charges related to providing material support for an act of terrorism and felony firearm. They are accused of helping plot leaders Adam Fox and Barry Croft. 9 and 10's Zachariah Wheaton is standing by live at the Antrim County Courthouse, where he has more information on some telling questions from the jury. Zach.
Yeah, Christina, the jury was sent back for deliberations around 9:45 this morning, and after a whole day of deliberating, we still don't have a verdict quite yet. Jurors have been working to figure out if the state gave sufficient evidence that the defendants gave material support by providing themselves physical assets, expert services, or surveillance, knowing plot leaders Adam Fox and Barry Croft would use it to facilitate an act of terrorism. Jurors are also deciding on whether the defendants provided that material support while in possession of a firearm. And while there's been no decisions today, jurors did ask a couple of questions, asking for a transcript of the testimony from Bill Knoll, talking about what he was doing at the AmVet parking lot just before the nighttime surveillance. The jury also wanted the mere presence law to be expanded upon, as the law states that a defendant's mere presence at the scene of a crime is not enough to prove that they assisted in that crime. Now, other than those questions, the jury has been quiet, so deliberations, they'll continue tomorrow. Reporting live in Antrim County, I'm Zachariah Wheaton, 9 and 10 News.
Okay, Zach, thank you so much for that. Well, some exciting news coming in for those who love movies. I'm talking about Tom O'Hare and going to the theater. The Traverse City Film Festival is back in a different way. Now it's a year-long instead of a week. It's called Traverse City Film Festival Tuesdays. Starting October 3rd, every Tuesday at 7 p.m., the State Theater will be playing a movie. The showing can be anything from indie and foreign films to documentaries. You can buy a season pass to TCF Tuesdays or simply buy a ticket each week. Just like the film festival, they plan on having directors come in or Zoom in to chat about films.
The movies that were chosen by Michael Moore are indicative of what the film festival shows. It's the rarities, it's the deep cuts, it's the foreign films, it's what brings people to the theater because they can't find it anywhere else. And it's that feeling of sharing a nugget of goodness that only those in the theater get to see.
The first movie playing as part of TCF Tuesdays is How to Blow Up a Pipeline. Yikes. Well, a brand new senior center is coming to Traverse City. How the city celebrated after years of planning coming up. Plus, a world championship is coming to Cadillac. We'll explain later in the Hook and Hunting Report.
And our skies have been beautiful today. Sunshine, patchy clouds, great temperatures, quiet weather tonight and tomorrow. But then things get interesting for the weekend. I'll have a look at that forecast when we get back.